Welcome to another session of Business Startup Training. Today, our focus is on Carlos Ghosn and Nissan. Our aim is to get an appreciation of Carlos Ghosn and his impact on Nissan and what are the options for each. Our objectives are to find out who is Carlos Ghosn, what was his impact on Nissan, what are the options for Nissan and Carlos Ghosn, and then we're going to conclude. Now, who is Carlos Ghosn? Carlos Ghosn was born on the 9th of March 1954, so he's 65 years. He was born in Porto Velho, Ronaldinha in Brazil. His nationality is he's French, he's Lebanese, and he's Brazilian. He studied at École Polytechnique in 1974 and École des Mines in 1978. He's a businessman, and he was married to Rita, and they were married in 1984 and they're divorced in 2012. Then he married Carol in 2016. He has 3 kids. I will not name them, but what's important to note here is he has a net worth of 120 million US dollars, which I would consider to be a very wealthy CEO. However, let's have a look at his jobs. So over the last year or so, he was CEO of Nissan North America. He was a chairman of Renault. He was a chairman of Avitovaz. He was also the chairman and CEO of Nissan, and he was a chairman of Mitsubishi. So he had 5 key jobs, or 5 top executive jobs of major companies in the world. So what was his impact at Nissan? So in the early 2000s, Carlos Ghosn orchestrated one of automotive's most aggressive downsizing campaigns. So he went to Nissan, massive downsizing, reduce the workforce, etc., cut costs. He spearheaded the turnaround of Nissan from near bankruptcy, and this is important. So the company was going into bankruptcy, which means that it was going to go under. At that point, they would sell assets. So that happened in 1999. He earned the nickname Mr. Fix-It. Following the financial turnaround in 2002 of Nissan, Fortune awarded him Asian's Businessman of the Year. So he got an accolade. In 2003, Fortune identified him as one of the top 10 most powerful business persons outside of the US. Ghosn also stepped down as CEO of Nissan the 1st of April 2017 while remaining chairman of the company. So he stepped down as CEO, but he was still chairman of the company. He was arrested at Haneda Airport on the 19th of November 2018 on allegations of underreporting his earnings, misuse of company's assets. And on the 22nd of November 2018, Nissan board unanimously decided to dismiss Ghosn as Nissan's chairman. Now let's see what happened and how did it go wrong. What we can figure out. On the 29th of December 2019, Carlos Ghosn had a fantastic escape from Japan. Now, he was able to get 2 private jets, one that traveled from Japan to Turkey and from Turkey to Lebanon. He was under 24-hour security, and we do not know all the details per se and the security arrangement, but his lawyers and everybody don't know how this happened, but he mysteriously was able to get on a train, get to the airport, and get in on a plane and get across the world over into Turkey and then into Lebanon and entered legally. Turkey, it is said that the documents may have been tampered with in terms of how he entered and exited the country, but we're not sure of all the details. But that's not our main concern. We're not concerned about the legalities. We're more focused on him as a CEO in terms of business startup training. Now let's have a look at the financials. In 2000, the financials of the company were about 49 billion in sales, operating profit about 2.3, net income of about 2.6. The earnings per share was about 67 cents. There was no dividends. The shareholders' wealth was about 7.7. There was total assets about 52 billion, and debt was about 7.6 billion. But in 2018, we'd like to look at how the company has grown over the period. Now it was in yen, so we had to do some conversion and hope we got it accurately. But sales is now 108 billion. Operating profit is about 52 billion. Net income is about 67 billion. So operating profit is slightly lower than net income because there are other incomes that the company generated. The dividends, they were now starting to pay dividends. So dividends were actually being paid of 17.9 billion. Shareholders' equity was about 56 billion. So from 7.7 to 56 is a significant increase. The total asset was 52 in 2000, but now it's 170. So that's about 3 times, just over 3 times the asset grew, the total asset. And in terms of debt, the debt it's 11 was 7, so it's about 4 billion. So the debt grew slowly, but the asset grew. And in terms of financials, I would say this is an excellent job to be able to increase the asset value of a company and reduce its debt over the period of such a large company is a fantastic achievement by any stretch of the imagination as a CEO. Not a lot of people could do this. But he has been successful as being able to, as a business, with his business skills, being able to turn this company around from near bankruptcy into great success. Now, it is important to note that in 2020, the share or the profits of the company, the share has fallen. I think at the time he departed, about 6%, 8% the share price fell. So billions have been wiped off with the share value. But we have got some information recently that reports have been published that the profits have fallen 83% over the period in light of his departure. So this whole scandal of this magnet powerhead CEO has cost this company severely. Now, what would be the strategy moving forward for Ghosn as well as Nissan? Let's have a look. So Carlos Ghosn can decide to plead with Nissan to get a settlement. He can decide to go back to Japan, which I'm assuming he will not do because he says that the conditions are quite terrible. He could also have court in Lebanon or France. I wouldn't say Brazil because Brazil is too far away and that's going to be a major complication to travel that distance. In terms of Nissan's options, they can leave him alone. They can do an out-of-court settlement. They can push for extradition, and they can appoint another CEO and write off the losses. Right now I also heard that they intend to sue him for about 90 million US dollars for the defamation in light of him going to the media and speaking about this whole negativity around Nissan and his departure and the whole drama. We're not sure how that would go, but our interest is not necessarily on the legality of the case. We're just making sure we're clear on that and who did what and what went wrong. But we're looking at it from a business startup side of it, or that's our intent. Looking at it from a business startup side, what we can learn from him as a CEO and how to take a company from near bankruptcy into positivity with also reduction of the debt, which is very, very good that anyone could do. Not a lot of people are able to do that. But let's have a look at what we can conclude. Carlos Ghosn, we spoke about him. We know that he's a fantastic CEO and he is successful at several companies, not just one. And he knows how to get the best out of a company as figurehead and CEO. And I think that is a good lesson to take away from this. His impact on Nissan has been significant. Right now they're licking their wounds in terms of financial damage due to his departure. And I think if there's not a stop to this, and it will cause a further hemorrhaging of the company's assets and its value, and they'll be taking their eye off the ball of the core business of making cars and focusing on the legalities of this. And I think if they keeping their eye on this, they are going to suffer significantly. I will assume it's best to cut losses and move on, but that's my own personal take on it. But I would say the experts may decide to do otherwise, because I mean there are serious financial implications of whatever decision is made. So to conclude, I would say from a business startup perspective, we have a lot of lessons to learn from Mr. Ghosn as a CEO, and how he's been successful at turning around companies, reducing their debt, and increasing the value of assets. And I think that's a good lesson to learn. So as a CEO, that is excellent. So when you're looking at business, you need to think about, okay, if I'm going to get in debt, how am I going to grow my assets and reduce my debt? And that is the lesson we should learn. Like, share, subscribe. Thank you.